feel like this place is it's just real special. It's its own little corner of goodness.
With Filipino escabeche, they'll use a whole
Fishing's good.
These guys down all the way.
Food's good.
Resistance, so the bait stays in contact with the bottom a little bit better.
Oh my God, it's big.
People are good. It's just a good atmosphere to be in.
Yeah.
This is gonna be interesting, man.
I don't really know anything about saltwater
Look at
fishing.
that right there. Way to go, Michelle.
I just like catching fish. This is Straight Up Fishing, the Isle of Palms in South Carolina.
So that's what you have to look forward on the next episode of Straight Up Fishing. You know, I've had a blast doing this Straight Up Fishing deal. Something I thought about a long time, and you guys really shown up and gave me a lot of support watching Straight Up Fishing. We're gonna go a lot of different places, and on this particular deal of Straight Up Fishing, we went outside of my comfort zone. I don't really know anything about saltwater fishing. I can tell you for sure I got a soft spot for inshore saltwater fishing specific. So that's what we got going on with Straight Up Fishing coming up here in the next couple of days. The next thing, I need your help, guys. You know, I always like to try to make sure in these videos, at the end of the video, that you're getting something, that I'm always giving. I'm gonna take just a second and ask you guys to give me something. You know, I've been doing the YouTube thing a couple years now, and subscribers is not something that I do it to get subscribers. I don't do that. I think getting subscribers is a result of giving you guys value, content, etc., etc. I think if I give, I'll get. But one thing I have noticed, you guys really have been taking the time to view a lot of the videos. The views are way through the roof for the time that I've been doing this. And I really appreciate your support. But one thing I do want to ask you to do is please subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it, because if you subscribe, you'll get a notification every single time I post a video. So please do that. Hit that red subscribe button. Make sure you click the little bell so you get a notification every single time that I put up a video. Let's get right into the tip that I want to show you guys today, the little trick that I got. Again, it is on the almighty Chatterbait. I know you're probably tired of me doing Chatterbait videos, but here's the fact. I love fishing the Chatterbait. It's just a cool bait. There's something about any bait that you have that has a skirt, a jig head, and blades that makes it just versatile. Think about it. All the baits that catch the most fish contain at least one of those components. A jig head, a plastic, or a blade. Jigs, swim jigs, flipping jigs, football jigs, round ball jig heads. A jig head, a blade, and a plastic is just a great way to catch fish. So that's what I'm always talking about a chatterbait, because there's so many ways to twerk it around and so many ways to use the bait. This is just a good bait to talk about and a good bait to use no matter where you live and what you fish for. So if you guys watch my tournament vlog, I'm going to leave a link in this description box of the tournament where you're actually going to see me use this particular little trick, little mod that I got for the chatterbait here. You're going to see a video where I use it down in Florida this year on FLW Tour and on Lake Toho. I talked a lot about the swim jig on that particular tournament, but one thing I was kind of thinking I was going to keep a secret was this little chatterbait mod that I did. For you guys that don't know, when you're fishing in Florida, typically you're fishing 4 foot or less most of the time. And when you're talking about when the fish are spawning, you're not even fishing in 4 foot. A lot of times you're fishing somewhere right in here. And we all know the chatterbait is just a big fish bait. For whatever reason, it catches the biggest bait, the biggest fish in the pond. Day 1 of Okeechobee last year was kind of a disaster. I had 9 pounds. Not really what I was expecting for that tournament. But on the flip side, my co-angler weighed in almost 20. I was around the fish. For whatever reason, he was doing something that was right, and I was doing something that was wrong. That night, I kind of went in and thought about it, As you know, I always do GoPro footage of my tournament, so I just started watching what I was doing and what my co was doing. One thing I noticed that he was doing, one is he was fishing a lot slower, and he was fishing a lot shallower. So with that being said, fishing slower, fishing shallower, mine kind of went into my, into effect. Started thinking about how I can make that work for me. And I tied on a swim jig, and I caught most of my fish. Be clear, I caught most of my fish that you'll see on that video on a 3/8 ounce swim jig, fishing a little bit slower than I was the day before, a little bit more subtle. But one of the key bites that I had at Okeechobee and at Toho came off a chatterbait. But I had to mod that chatterbait where I could fish it. Well, there's occasions where you need to throw that chatterbait a little farther back, and you need to throw it a little bit shallower. In this case, these fish are hanging out, right in here, 1.5 2 foot of water. And swim jig works perfect for that, but when you're fishing in a real small area, they get used to seeing the same thing over and over and over and over. Project Z chatterbait, the weedless Project Z, came into play in that tournament for me, just for a couple bites. 3/8 was just a little heavy to fish right in here. So what did I do? I got real Belton, South Carolina hood on them. So what I did was I took my Project Z weedless 3/8 ounce, and I had to figure out how to make it weigh a little less. So what I did was took it out on the concrete and just rubbed it back and forth on the concrete till I got the size that I felt like I need. We're gonna go out here in the shop and let me show you exactly how you can do this. If you're at home, you probably have a lot of other tools that'll make it a little bit nicer chatterbait. So let's go out here in the shop and I'm gonna show you exactly how I did it. So this is what I did here to grind down these little chatterbait heads. Now you can do this, be totally honest with you. I did my very first one just grinding it on asphalt because I didn't have any tools because I was out fishing. But if you want a little bit better finished product, all I'm using right here is, this is just my electrical miter saw, and I'm just rubbing the head right up against the blade. Works just fine. Or if you have an angle grinder and a vise, that works fine. It's really not that serious. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. I'm just going to knock the sides off a little 3/8 ounce jig head. So that's what the finished product looks like. I like to kind of knock the sides off of it, clean it up really good so that if your line just happens to wrap around your head, that it doesn't kind of fray or nick your line. But you see I got that pretty nice and even on the back side. That's real important, just so it swims right. And there you go. It's less than a 3/8. One of the things I was doing to my chatterbait, my Project Z chatterbait, I needed something lighter. I needed to be able to get back in there and fish that bait slow. And what I was doing is just throwing it back in there and just barely turning the handle, and it would wake right under the surface, and those fish that were spawning, they couldn't stand it. What I did, since you're throwing a lighter bait, I took the skirt off and just used a straight up razor shads on the back of it. That did a couple things for me. Since we're going with a lighter bait, I couldn't throw it as far as I could at 3/8 or a ½ ounce. But I'm fishing shallow, so I need to be able to keep the bait up. Taking that resistance of the skirt off gave me less wind resistance, let me get that bait way back in there. I used the lightest jig head I could, and having that blade on that chatterbait just let me crawl that thing right on the surface, and a couple of my key bites came using that. Razor shads, Project Z, something they don't see a whole lot in that shallow water. They're seeing plenty swim jigs, but they ain't seeing many chatterbaits coming through there nicking like that in those lily pads. So something that I wish I would have figured out a day earlier. I probably would have been a lot richer than I am now. Ended up weighing 16 pounds on the second day, almost 16. I think I had like 15 and a half, 15 3/4 on the second day. As a bass fisherman, you always round your weight up, right? So I had 16. I had like 15.8, but in my mind, I had 16. If you need to fish your chatterbait a little bit shallower than a 3/8 ounce chatterbait will let you, try that. I think, in my opinion, the Project Z chatterbait works a little bit better when you're grinding it. If you don't have any tools, do like I do. Just grind it down on something rough. You can take it and manually do it. If you got a skill saw, just rub your head up against the blade, the chatterbait head up against the blade. That works great. Or if you have an angle grinder, that works great as well. What you use doesn't matter. The biggest thing is making sure you keep the same amount of lead on each side of the line tie. Make sure you knock all the burrs off so it doesn't nick your line if the bait tends to get fouled up. So it's a great way to fish a chatterbait. It worked for me. I'm sharing it here with you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button today. See you guys on the next video.